Hello everyone, Ep here with Tech Motorsports, and the upgrades continue on this E36 M3 that I got here. So this segment is going to be on the aero. So if you can see down there towards the bottom, I have already installed the replica LTW splitter on this M3. So we got the kit from Turner Motorsports. We got the splitter, the skid plate, the brackets for the skid plate, the chin spoiler here, and the adjustable splitter itself. So yeah, nice one big kit. It was very simple. That's the reason why I just did not do a video on it. The instructions that they have online were pretty good. The only thing, or the only issue I came across, was the two brackets back in the back for the slider section of the splitter. I had to elongate two of the holes because they were out too far. Once I did that, I was able to get it in place and everything slides nice and smooth. So to be honest with you, that was the only issue I had. So by doing so, we got that already installed, and we also went ahead and installed the canards. So the canards are from Hard Motorsports. These are the hard plastic ones, and they just went on with some rivets. That's pretty much about it for the front end. And of course, anything that we do with aero, if you do anything with the front of the car, guess what? Got to do it to the back end. So that's right, we're going to go ahead and start looking at the rear spoiler, which is going to be adjustable again. And let's go to the back of the car and get started with the rear spoiler, because that's the one that's going to take a little bit of more massaging and some stuff you have to do to get that sucker installed correctly. So let's get to it.
Had an issue with my audio, so trying this voice overlay for the first time. Here we go. Here is the items that are included in the kit when you purchase it. So we have the section that bolts onto the trunk, the side pylons, those bolt onto the trunk section, then the center adjustable piece. Then we also have the hardware kit, and that is all on the hardware kit. There are no bolts, no rivets, no nuts. That is all you get in the hardware kit. For the side pieces, the pylons, they do not come pre-drilled, so I had to do those. And as you can see on this one here, I already went ahead and pre-drilled it. But what I ended up doing is I found a better way to do so. I will explain later. And then also with the centerpiece, not pre-drilled. All right, so to access and remove the spoiler, I had to remove the trunk panel. And the reason why I did that is it had a third brake light, so I know the wire went somewhere, and I wasn't 100% sure if it went on the passenger side or driver's side. But as you can see, I keep pointing, it is on the driver's side as I'm grabbing the spoiler to show you the wire there. And the reason why I did that, or the main reason, is I didn't want to have to cut the wire off by accident. So the other thing too is if you kind of hold on real tight, I will show you where the wire was clipped at, and it was zip tied right there in that area. You can see the connector. Let's jump to the removal of the spoiler itself. Removing the rear spoiler, it is held on with 4 screws, 2 on each side, and a pesky double-sided tape. Now that I know where the wire is at, I was able to just start from the passenger side. So I first started going through breaking the double-sided tape with a little scraper, and I noticed that I started nicking the edge of the trunk just a tad bit. So I changed it up and used the windshield wire removal tool to be able to break the double-sided tape loose. Now, as you can see, it is pretty much around the whole entire base of the spoiler. Once this section was removed from the trunk, all I had to do is just pry up on that side, and it started breaking loose the other side where the double-sided tape was attached.
So once I got this completely assembled, I didn't like how it was sitting on the table, so I wasn't 100% sure if everything was lining up. So what I decided to do is I then installed this on here, and it looked like it fitted okay once I put everything on the table. So I changed how I was going to go about doing it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to mount the whole spoiler to the trunk first, into the car, and then see where these end plates will end on the spoiler. So what I've done now is I've put tape backwards and taped it onto here. So I'm hoping that the tape here will then adhere to the trunk, and that way I have where my hose are going to be lined up. Now I've already fitted it on the truck, so I have an idea where it's going. I have all my tape marks there, so I'm going to go ahead and do that. So hoping this works. And yeah, so I'll pick you up here in a second. So there she is. So I got my tape line on there. It wasn't, this is the first time I've done this, so it actually came out pretty well. You know, got it in place. You know, I did all my alignments, all my markings on here, so I knew exactly where to put it on there. And I just got it to the part where I was able to get the front section taped down. And what I ended up doing is I gently raised it up and just brought my finger all the way down to take the tape that was connected to the spoiler, the bottom of the spoiler, and I just ran it all the way down. I went from one side to the other. That way I wouldn't, you know, pull that one completely off. And long and behold, she's in place. And so here are the existing holes, only 2 on the OEM spoiler, and my holes are literally going to fall right there, which is going to be on the inside of these. So that means I'm going to be drilling to this section and this section here. So that means, because of the way the spoiler is, I have to cut into the trunk in this area to be able to get a bolt in there to tighten them down. Now, the OEM spoiler has 2, the DTM one has 3. So yeah, that's going to be kind of fun. It's just more of just cutting it, but unfortunately it just sucks that we have to cut it just to be able to get a bolt on there. But at this point, it is what it is. So now what I'm going to do is I'm just going to go ahead and get these marked, at least drill the holes, and start from there, and then just kind of clean up this area here so that I could technically insert a bolt there and tighten them up. So pick you up in a bit. As you can see, or hopefully you could see, this hole is pretty much close, or the new hole is really close to the old one. But you can see here's the new one here. Here's the drill bit that I just used, which is a 9/64, I think. You can see that it's literally pretty much right there on the wall. As I get bigger, so I could use or get a bolt to go in there, it's going to go into this wall here. And for the top one here, you can see that it's getting close to that wall there as well. So that was what I was talking about earlier. It's going to go into this section. The other side is pretty much right on the money as this one is. Pretty much the gap is almost the same. So yeah, I'm just going to keep moving forward and going through the size of drill bits until I get to the size to where I'm going to end up stopping, and I'm doing it step by step so that way I could work my way into the sidewalls of the trunk. So stay tuned for more. I went through the process and took my time and went from the smaller size up to the correct size. That way I have a really nice tight fit for the screw. So as you can see, I got all 3 of them here. This one, I used just the screws that I had laying around that fit the spoiler. These are pan heads. I will be purchasing different ones. But as you can see, this one, the pan head, because it's a little bit bigger, it is rubbing here on this lip right here on the trunk. The center one, it drilled through it, and the one up here up top, it just barely touched the wall right here, unlike the center one. Now, if you look at the other side, the top one's the same, the bottom one's the same, but this one, the center one, barely touched it as well. So I'm thinking that this insert wasn't installed properly. It was too further in because this is the only one that technically drilled that much into the sidewall. But so for now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to run up to the store and I am going to get overhead screws that will fit in here and get this thing mounted correctly, so then I could go one more step further and install the other section, and to make sure that the adjusters are even. So pick you up after I get back from the store. Okay, so I ended up purchasing the socket head style Allen bolts, a 1/4 by 20, 1 inch on the top, 2, and then 3/4 on the bottom. It's thinner down here towards the bottom, so I was able to utilize the 1 inch ones up there. So 2 different sizes, but with this style head of the bolt, I did not have to drill and slot up here or down here on either side. The only oddball one is this one right here, and it's just this particular one. Like as I stated previously, or I might have stated previously, it looks like the insert was pushed in more when it was put together, or when the spoiler was made. So the other side, I do not have that hole. So let's take a quick peek at the other side as well. So here is the other side. As you can see, the upper one here, it's not cut out as well. Neither is the center one, neither is the bottom one. So this section here on the spoiler itself was actually put together correctly, if I could go ahead and say that. And this side right here, from the top, this is the oddball one. So I'm going to go ahead now, take this back off again, and I'm going to install the spoiler now. Okay, so she is bolted on, everything is tightened. So now I'm able to kind of look at the final product and see what adjustment needs to be done. And there's some adjustments that do need to be done. Dang it. So I'm going to start with this pillar here. This pillar seems to be positioned on this space here on the lower spoiler section. Okay, this one is not. This one seems to be sticking out towards the right side of the vehicle more. So I have a big, huge ledge on this side right here. So what I'm probably gonna end up doing is I'm gonna elongate the holes to try to get this base here to move in towards the car. And by doing so, I'm going to try to soak up and remove this big old gap between this profile. As you can see, I can stick my pick down towards the bottom. It's kind of like if it's just not square enough, or it's not square, it's been grinded down too much down here towards the bottom. This side is honestly in good condition. It's this side that I'm having an issue with. On the front section where the wing pivots, that is nice and tight up here, so the issue is not the whole entire thing, it is just this rear section. Now, as I go in and try to put these brackets here alongside these here and in the center section, I'm not getting it nice even all the way across. One point is higher than the other, so that's kind of what I'm dealing with right now. So what I'm going to end up doing is I'm going to go ahead and remove some of this. This is just the most time-consuming part, is having to take this thing off and on so many times. But I got to take it off. I'm going to elongate the holes on this bracket here, and then see if I could get this to come in and go from there. So pick you up in a bit. Now that the holes have been slotted out on this bracket here, I was able to get this pillar in and take up the gap that was right here on this profile, on this bracket here. So once I got everything said and done, I started looking at at setting this in place so I could get the brackets here on the ends, and I noticed that I was not getting this lined up. What was happening was I would get it even on one side or close to even. This side or that side would be up too high or too low. So something here is not correct. So what I ended up doing then was started on that side, try to make it nice and smooth and even, and realized this section was up. So as I looked even further, I realized that this section here dips down, while this section here is a little bit more flat, and then this section here is thicker on this end, while this one is thinner. And now by looking at it on the top side, I was able to see that when this was kind of smooth and finished off, they took too much material off, because it looks like I could see the plastic section of the spoiler. Remember this wing is a FRP, which is a fiberglass reinforced plastic. If it's not the plastic, then what has happened was the fiberglass that has been installed has been removed, and all I could see is just the resin itself. And there seems to be like a black mark going through there. So, so what I'm going to end up doing is just adding material from here to here, which is just going to be Bondo, because it's just small little areas, just to try to make it smooth, a little bit more pleasing for the eyes. And then yeah, that's the plan on doing that. But as of right now, now that I've got it there, I'm going to work on getting this right where I need it to be with these little brackets, and then I'm going to go ahead and get these in place so that they don't move. And then I could drill the holes and then rivet them in, but the rivets will be done once it's painted. But still, that's what I'm going to work on, and I'll pick you up here in a bit. So what I'm going to end up using is, I got some epoxy Gorilla Glue. It sets pretty quick when that's what I want. It says it sets in 5 minutes. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use this to bond these plates to the fiberglass piece, because what I want to do is I want to make sure that they stay stationary, so that when I remove everything, those plates end up here, and then I can drill them, so that way it is a perfect alignment when this wing is adjusted. So that way you do not put one bolt in and have to raise or lower the wing here on this end to get the other bolt in. So that's what I'm going to end up doing. So I'm going to go ahead and just get this mixed up, and I'm just going to go dabble all the way around enough to where I can to make sure it sticks, and I'm going to let it set, and then I should be able to drill it, and it should stay in place really easy. So I'll pick you up in a bit. The epoxy has dried overnight. The only thing I had to go do is go through with a razor blade and split these areas here where the end plates are at. So it just took a little bit going all the way around, especially in the areas where the epoxy kind of blended together. But once that was all said and done, she broke loose really easy. Now the whole reason why I wanted to do it this way is I just wanted to make sure that these end plates are pretty much in the best place possible when they get secured onto the fiberglass piece. That's what I want. I don't want these things to move around at all, and then these do not align up when I finalize everything, because at that time when I finalize everything, it's going to be painted. I don't want to have to do anything to it. So right now, by doing it this way, I could just do an adjustment and get it here in the right spot, and the bolt should just technically fall right into place. And there we go. So that makes it an easy adjustment, and that will keep my end plates right where I need it to be. So now is removing the whole spoiler again, and temporarily securing these to each pieces. And then the next step is, once that is said and done, put it all back together again on the car and start working on these lines. I was hoping I didn't have to do a lot of this. Unfortunately, this section here is pretty bad. This one does need a little bit of work, but yeah, just trying to make it a little bit more pleasing for the eyes. So I'll pick you up sometime in that process. So see you soon. And there she is, all painted, looking way better than it did originally when I first started. So all the body work that I ended up doing, the spoiler was put all together and attached to the car to make sure all my lines were matching. As I stated previously, that I think it's this side here, which was the driver's side. This one actually tapered down a lot, so it didn't match that well with one of these ends. And the same thing with the other one. It wasn't so bad, but I want to say it was the driver's side that was really bad. The other thing too, it's with fiberglass, there's work that needs to be done. It even states when you purchase it that it needs to be, it's not going to be perfect. So what this kit had was a lot, and I'm talking about a lot of pinholes in the fiberglass themselves. So I covered, which I thought I covered all of them. I applied the first coat of primer, and then I noticed I missed, not a lot, but I missed enough to where they pretty much came out and slapped me in the face. So so I had to go and refill those, sand it back down, and reprimer it. So that was done. Now it looks money. So in addition with all the other work that I had to do before painting it, was once I started dealing with this, and I started looking at it while I had the epoxy on to keep these end plates attached, I noticed that there were gaps on the lower section more than I liked. So when I was able to take the epoxy off, I noticed that it technically kind of rocked a little bit back and forth. So these sections here and on this section here were not flat. So I had to go and sand them down, fill it to make it flat, or fill it, sand them down to make them flat, and now she is pretty much 99% money. So so now I'll be able to go ahead and get these installed. I will be using rivets to do so. I did try to do like hardware and using bolts. The bolts do protrude. I did grind a couple down to kind of hold these in place originally, which worked okay. But what happens is once you start grinding the head down, you lose that area to where if it's a Phillips or an Allen or Torx head, you lose that initial bite to be able to screw it in. So we're going to be using rivets. Anyways, the extrusions, not extrusions, they said that you install the end plates with rivets. So so yeah, so I'm going to go through all that, and now that it's all painted, I will tell you now before you see it when it's on the car. The color is a few shades darker than the car itself. It's gut-wrenching because when I did the roll cage, it came out really close to the color. So I went back to the same place and got it in a spray can. So this is a 2-part spray can. You have the color itself, and then you have the hardener in a different little bladder. It has to be punctured from underneath. And you shake it up really well, shake it up for a while, and you're ready to paint. And it's technically single stage, which is the automotive paint. It's not like spray paint that you can get from like Advanced Auto. Any of that stuff, like rattle can spray. So so yeah, so she's just not matching well. TC is okay with it, but we will soon see if it maybe comes off down the road and gets resprayed to match the color a tad bit better. But overall, she looks great for the most part. But yeah, so next thing I'm going to end up doing is I'm going to go ahead and get these riveted on. In the time of all of this was drying and going through the process, I did start working on the trunk itself, and I started prepping those areas and trying to get the old holes all taken care of. So once I get this all assembled and set aside, I will pick you up in the back of the car at the trunk. All right, and there she is. She's all installed. Actually seeing it installed, you can tell, I don't know if it translates on the camera, the different shades of silver, but it's okay. I'm going to try to do something down the road. There are still a couple items that we're going to do to the car down the road, so probably what we'll end up doing is, if it's an option for TC, is actually getting some base coat and getting some body match color and respraying it and clearing it to make it look a little bit better. But who knows? Maybe TC says, "Screw it, let's keep it that way." But yeah. So as of right now, she's all installed. I have to do the interior. Also, I got to be sure not to slam and let this thing open up because there is a ½ inch between the spoiler and the glass itself. So got to be careful when it's open. Now for the existing holes that were here, I went ahead and used seam sealer and put it right above the current seam sealer so you can't see the old holes. So those are completely covered with it, with that. And also seam sealer did go through onto the trunk side, so that is sealed as well. So as you can see, I have removed the old yellow film that was here and on both sides. I ended up having to wet sand and buff this area here because it did leave some scratches from the OEM spoiler rubbing on the edges. It was rubbing on the actual quarter panel itself. So I think at this point this is pretty much it. The only thing I got to do is just assemble everything, and I was looking at it before I turned the clip on, and I think that is it for the car. I think I have everything done. It's on my list for this time around. And yeah, so guys, like always, help the channel out, and by doing so you got to hit that like and subscribe button, and yeah, I hope to see you in the next video.